Hello, my name's Scott. I'm just going to press the right buttons on here a second. If I do this, boom, that should pin me to the front. So this is Zoom. If people haven't used Zoom before, I've done some silly things where I can turn off my background. I will very quickly just show you if I turn that off. This is my office. It's an old World War II American flag there, but a bit of branding. We put the CETSAT logo on there. So we've been using Zoom every day since we've been at home. We've all been at home since Tuesday, and we use Zoom every morning. 9:30 in the morning, we do a quick check-in to make sure everyone's online. At 3:30 in the afternoon, we see how everyone's getting on as well. So we might miss that call later today, but all the rest of our guys are going to be doing it. And we've had calls with 25 participants and more on there. I actually used it myself at the weekend for a bit of socializing as I was stuck at home and obviously can't go out like the rest of you. And I saw some friends and we had some drinks in the evening as well. Zoom's a brilliant tool. So I'll talk a bit more about it a bit later. What I wanted to say really today was just a little bit about home working and preparing you for what's to come. Some of you might not have done it before. CETSAT are pretty location agnostic, so we can do far short of visiting sites. We can do everything else that we do and offer the service that we offer, the remote support and our phones and everything works from home. It doesn't mean it's easy. We can do it, but it's different. There's obviously there's people running around, there's children, there's animals. It's not as comfortable. I certainly miss working in an open office. My job entails a lot of listening to what people are doing with support and being able to throw in my 2 pence and help them where I can. And that's really difficult to do from being stuck in an office at home. That means my phone doesn't stop ringing. I've got lots of messages going off on Slack. I've got emails, and I'm trying to multitask more than I would normally. So some of the things I wanted to go over just to start off with, obviously, yeah, for people that haven't worked from home before, and indeed people that have worked from home before, cut yourself some slack. Things are going to be different. Things are a bit more difficult. Your internet connection at home is not going to be as good as it is at work. There's more going on around you. It's harder to concentrate. It's harder to feel motivated. And certainly you're going to miss some of your colleagues around you. You're not going to have those water cooler moments and things. So try and do that. Try and make phone calls. Try and pick the phone up and speak to people more. Don't feel too secluded. Most importantly, find a space and make it your own. Whether that is the kitchen side top and you're going to tell your friends, your family, your housemates what you're doing, when you're going to be doing it, what sort of calls and things that you're on. Make sure it's ergonomic, a decent desk or a lap tray if you need to. Sitting on a sofa is not great for posture, so if you can, try and sit on a normal chair. Try and stay out of your bedroom. Keep your work life and your personal life a bit separate. Your bedroom is a place for sleeping, and you don't really want to be thinking about work when you're sleeping. And wherever you are, try and keep it tidy, close the door, separate that this is work moment, and then afterwards, after work, it's then social. So if it's a dressing table, make sure everything's cleared off. There's no distractions there. Set yourself a bit of a routine and a schedule. Work the hours that you would normally work. It's really, really easy to work really early. It's really, really easy to work really late. Try not to do that. It's not good for your mind. It's not something you would do if you weren't at home. And just because your office is now across the landing, it doesn't mean that you need to do more than you would normally do. Again, with that, make sure you take regular breaks. Set an alarm. Get up, walk around. Fake your commute. You're allowed to do one piece of exercise a day at the moment. If it's a case of you go out and walk around the block in the morning before you get into work, do it. And make sure you eat your lunch away from your workspace. Spend time with your family if they're in the house. Last off, with that, establish some ground rules. So explain your time to your family and housemates. Explain your office hours, what you're going to be doing. If you're on an important call like I am now, I've told my children that I'm on this important call. I've asked them and I've put a scribbled note on the door saying, do not disturb. So minimizing some interruptions, distractions, close all your social media apps because it's really, really easy just to get distracted elsewhere. So with your work, when you're working from home, the most important part of working from home is to communicate. And if anything, you need to be over communicating now. There's no one around you. No one can see what you're doing. No one can, within reason, they can't really check up on you. They can't see that you're doing everything you need to be doing. So if you're doing something that people need to know, share it with them. Let them know what you're working on, when you're working on it, where you're working on it, and how it's getting on. Share your project process with them, with everybody that needs to know. So however you do that, whether that's email, whether it's phone calls, whether it's here or messaging apps. Tell your team and express to your team as well that they should be communicating with you, and ask them to communicate with you. If technology fails, make sure that you have shared with everybody what landline numbers you have, or your personal mobile number. People that need to be able to check in with you and talk to you can do them in a much easier way. Check in with everybody. Be there for each other. We said about it earlier. There's a couple of days, a couple of points in the day where you can check in on a call, you can check in on a video conference. This time is really valuable, and it lets you keep building spirits and aware that you're all in this together. You can share any ideas, any issues you've got, and reassure people. Ask for feedback, especially from people. What's working well? What's not working so well? What could you do to make things better? Give people some power to be able to make this situation a better one, and give them that voice, that all-important voice. Remember, for some people as well, I'm lucky I'm home with my family. Some people aren't. They don't have that luck. And you now are their only point of social interaction, far short of what they're doing on Facebook and Instagram. So if you would pop into an office and see someone before a meeting, or you'd give them a phone call or a message while you're on the way there, it would go a long way just for you to do that same thing now. So before this meeting today, I quickly sent a couple of Slack messages to Chris, who's on the meeting with me. And it was an opportunity to discuss what we're going to talk about today. Exactly the same as we would if we were about to walk into a building. One thing I can't express enough is use the phone more than you usually would. It's really easy to bash out a message on a keyboard and fire it off to people. And do that whether it's an email, messages, any kind of social media. Those forms of written text can be really, really easy and really prone to be miscommunicated. So if you've got the opportunity and you've got a phone nearby, pick up the phone and speak to someone. Clarify it. Understand what's happening. Make sure there's clarity in what you're doing and what everybody is doing. You can always follow it up with like a summary email afterwards. Again, with that as well, have the time to pick up the phone if the phone is ringing for you. Make sure you're returning phone calls and voicemails. You don't want people assuming that you're sat around twiddling your thumbs, when I know a lot of people aren't. Everyone's struggling. They want to keep their business above water. They want to be able to communicate, and that is key. So what I've been asked to talk about today mostly is technology. So a lot of you will now be working from home. And like I said earlier, a lot of you are now at the point where you're thinking, well, how do we do this? We haven't done this before. You've all got your own IT support. Obviously, we provide IT support, and there's other members of the chamber that provide IT support as well. So some of the things that's really important is just making sure you've ironed out all those bugs and you know what you're doing before you're using it in anger, which unfortunately, as of yesterday's announcement, we've kind of all been thrown in this together, and some people that might be late to the party aren't going to be as prepared as people that were beforehand. So most importantly, get comfortable with your home setup. If this is the first time you've worked remotely, make sure you do things like test your microphone, test your speakers, make sure your webcam works. I did suggest, and I was going to suggest, to order one off Amazon, but Amazon's deliveries have all been pushed back to the 20th of April now. So I downloaded, I've got a webcam on my laptop, but my laptop's currently sat over there. If I sit and look at the laptop, you're not going to be able to see me very well. So I've downloaded an app on my iPhone. It's called Epoch Cam. I'm going to just put that in the messages now. There's a free version of it. There's also a paid-for version. This is the paid-for version. It downloads a little app onto your machine, and you can actually use your iPhone. And I've got my iPhone sat up on a little stand on top of my TV screen, so I can see myself. You can see me better, but it means I've got a little bit of better audio there. I've also, if I turn off my background a second, not everyone has the luxury of these, but I've got a studio mic here. Anyone that plays music and things has got stuff at home. Think outside the box. Think of ways you can make your setup a little better, a little bit easier for people to hear you and see you and keep in contact. If you can, or if there are people still in the office, take some of your creature comforts home with you from the office. So if you can bring a spare screen home, that's quite important. Like again, when we work in the office, we're all working on 3 screens. We've all got a mouse and a keyboard. When you're all hunched over a laptop, we're going to be here for some time. It could be weeks, it could be months. You don't want to be, it's going to be bad for your posture, it's bad for the way that you work. So make sure you've got a mouse plugged into your laptop, a keyboard plugged into your laptop, you're spread out and you're using things properly. Make sure you've got some spare batteries for your peripherals. If you haven't, get an order in for them now, because it's going to be a while before stuff gets in. So test it all, make sure you've got the cables you need, and test it with each other. But before you have to use it in anger, before you're in a live environment, use things like Zoom, use things like Teams to have a communication with friends and other colleagues, just to make sure it's all working for you. Now, a lot of you are going to be using your home PCs or your home Macs, machines that weren't really designed to be used in your office. Those machines, it's really important that they're up to date. So you need to make sure all your Windows updates are installed, or your Mac OS updates are installed. You need to make sure that you're running antivirus. And if you're not running antivirus, you need to get some. Whether that's a case of you ask your employer if they're happy to foot the bill for it to put onto your machine. A lot of companies have a managed antivirus that they can ask for. If not, go out there and get some. By all means, get in contact with CETSAT. That's something we can help you with, but I know a lot of you have your own IT as well. And the other one that's a really big one, a lot of you are using your machines to connect to machines in the office, and those machines that you're using to connect to them from, or to, even, they're machines sat in your houses that are shared machines that your wife or your husband or a housemate might use, or even your children. So as a security side of things, don't be saving passwords on that desktop or laptop. Don't be downloading sensitive files. Think of that machine you're using now as a machine in your office. And if you let your son use a machine in your office, would you let him use it? Yeah, would you let him use the one you've got at home? So it's something quite important to think about. Don't be saving passwords in RDP files and VPN sessions. Everything should be asking you to log in. So don't be ticking the box that's saying remember me, because they're things that if someone accidentally stumbles across it, you don't want to be in a situation where you've suddenly breached GDPR because someone's looked at something that they shouldn't have, or more importantly, someone's hacked onto a PC that's at home and is now a security risk because they've got onto your machine and then got into your work's network. With connectivity at home, bear in mind, obviously, your home internet is going to be very different to what what your business internet is. It's going to have different speeds. It's certainly going to have different SLAs. If something goes wrong with your home internet and you phone up BT at the moment, or Vodafone, or Virgin, or whoever you're with, they're not going to be as quick to call, quick with a call to action to help you out than there would be for a business line, because a business line can be regarded as mission critical, whereas your home one is not. Your connectivity is going to be slower, so things that you do are going to take longer to do. You're going through many, many hops to be able to connect to what you are connecting to. It's not in the same office as you anymore. So the things you're having to do have got to traverse the internet a little bit more. And when they're doing that, it's going to take longer. So just accept it. Be aware that that's the case. And like we said earlier, cut yourself a little bit of slack. If your internet does go down at home, most people with smartphones have something called a mobile hotspot. And a mobile hotspot, so long as your phone allows it and your contract agrees to it, will allow you to share the internet connection from your mobile phone to your laptop or to a PC, whether that's plugged in via a USB cable or it creates a wireless hotspot. I shared a link earlier. We've got a whole page up with COVID-19, and on there is a guide. It's a generic guide of how to use mobile hotspots. It's something we usually only share with our customers, but it's out there, and we'll let anyone use it if it's going to help them. So let's talk about how you're going to connect to your office. Some of you will be wondering this. Some of you will be using remote tools. There's stuff out there that's paid for, like Go to My PC, there's Log Me In, there's TeamViewer. We use some software called Screen Connect, but a lot of you are going to be using something called an SSL VPN. So I'm going to try and share something now, a second. You should now all be able to see, as well as the camera, this is my iPad. We're all at home, and this is all our machines at home, and we've all got, and we all connect to the internet. And what we're doing at the moment, normally we would, instead of where the internet is there, we would have a collection of PCs in their office, and then we're all connected to the server. And that connection from the PC to the servers is quick because we're right next to it. What a lot of people are doing now is through the internet, they're connecting to an SSL VPN, and then let's say their server is here. Next to their server is their firewall. And then they've got all their PCs in their office as well, which is all connected to the same thing. What a lot of people are doing at the moment is they're using an SSL VPN or a VPN connection to connect from their home PC. Let's make this in a sensible way. So we're connecting through here via the internet to the firewall, which is fantastic. But from there, you then need to understand how you're going to connect, because all that's done is just put your PC into your work's network. So you then need to either be able to connect to the files that are on your server or the files that are on your PC. So the way people are doing that is they're mapping drives onto their home PCs, or they use a remote desktop to connect directly to their own PC and then work from their PC from there. So that's something we've been working on a lot. We've got a lot of customers that our support board has just completely exploded with support requests of people asking us, can they connect their home PC to their works PC so they can access all of the tools and all the software that they would normally use just on a remote screen. So they do that via remote desktop. We've had to change some security settings on their own machines and then set up and provide guides to them of how to connect to their works network. So then from their works network, they can connect onto their works PC. Some companies also have a remote desktop server. You'll know if you've got one of these. And again, with companies, some people use a remote desktop server all the time. In this scenario, more and more people are now needing to use that remote desktop server. So your IT is going to need to better up the resources on there and make it set up to be able to deal with the demand of all those new users. With that as well, some of you might not be able to have access to that remote desktop server because you haven't used it before. So they're going to have to add you to groups to be able to ensure that you can access that remote desktop server. So that's how some of you are doing it. Other people, you're connecting to SSL VPN and then you're mapping the drives that you would normally have access to on your works PC. So again, with that, you're browsing the network, you're browsing onto the PC and using your Windows username and credentials to connect to them. So that's how you're going to access your data that's there. And with that, again, there are many IT companies within the chamber that are ready to help you with that. If you do need help, make sure you reach out. This is a time when everybody wants to help everyone, so please do so. While you're away from the office as well, some people with their home machines aren't going to have they don't have access to emails in a way that they would normally have access to. They haven't got the full version of Outlook because the full version of Outlook is actually on their PC in the office. Most companies, if they're not on Office 365, there is something called Outlook Web Access. Speak again to your employer or to your IT provider to ask how you would access that. For the majority who are on Office 365, if you browse to outlook.office365.com in a web browser, and I'll share that again in the chat now, from there, you'll be able to log on to using your Office 365 username and password and simply log into your emails, and it's an online version of Outlook. It's not as full fat, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's got enough to get you working. And you've got all your folders and everything in there, and it just makes sense for you to use it. You can also download the Outlook app for free on an iPad or an Android device or an iPhone. And again, if you log in with those credentials, you can have your emails appearing on your mobile devices, which might make life a little bit easier for you. Again, with Office 365, as long as you've got the right licenses, you'll also find that you can use the Office apps within the web browser. So I'm going to share another link with you now. If you go to portal.office.com, I'm just going to put this in the chat now, and you log in with the same credentials. When you log into there, you'll see it shows the apps that are available to you. So there is Word, there is Excel, there is PowerPoint, and they're online versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You can use them within your web browser without having to install Office on your home PC. And with those, you can also do a bit of collaborative stuff because it kind of ties in with OneDrive and SharePoint. With an Office 365 license, you should have a OneDrive license. Your company might not be fully in the cloud yet, but there's no reason why you can't dabble a little bit now. What that will allow you to do is, with a Word document, there's a share button at the top in the browser. You can share that link and you can message it to a colleague or drop it in an email, and they can click on the link and you can both be in that Word document or Excel document at the same time, which is something you may not have ever done before, but this is an opportunity now that you can use some of these resources that are out there and see how they work. And they might actually change the way you work in the future. Again, some people that don't have Office 365, if you need to install Office on your home PC, speak to your IT provider, see if they can provide you with a license so you can download and install it. If not, there is an open source alternative that's called Libre Office. It's free, so don't expect it to be as good, but it certainly works. I've shared the link out to you now. So Libre Office, they have their own version of Word, Excel, and Access, and they will open Word, Excel, and Access documents. And again, they can export out to those as well. So it's something just to get you by in the meantime. While you're working from home, you will need access to a phone. Most companies now have VoIP. If they have got VoIP, speak to their provider. They'll provide you with some SIP details. So it's a username, a password, and a server address that you can download an app, a soft phone app on your mobile phone. I've got a soft phone app on my phone, and most of CETSAT are using the same app. It's called GROUNDWIRE. Again, I'll write that in the messages here. And GROUNDWIRE itself is £10 on an iPhone, and I think it's only £8 on an Android device. Check with your provider before you purchase it to make sure it's something that can be supported by what you've got. But what that will allow you to do is you can log into that, and you have your desk phone on your mobile phone with you at all times. And again, it's something that you're going to use now, but it's something you may benefit from in the future because you suddenly realize it's much easier than forwarding phone calls. And you can do everything on that app that you can elsewhere. There are other apps out there. Bria is another one that's quite good, B-R-I-A. That's one that you have to pay a monthly subscription for now. They don't do a one-time purchase on that anymore. For companies that can't do that, but they still have VoIP, or they've got a dedicated SIP trunk on site and there's no way of using a soft phone, speak to your provider first and see if they will quite happily put a forward on. They can forward it onto a mobile. If they forward it onto a mobile, obviously someone else can pick it up. That works well with extensions. The other thing you can look at, it's not something that CETSAT use because we don't need it, but it's something I've certainly used before. There's a company called Flextel. I've just shared out the link again. Flextel will let you set up a virtual telephone number, and that virtual telephone number, you purchase the number from them for £1. Usually they're an 0845 number, so there's some call charges involved, but those call charges are quite nominal. And you can set up something called a call hunt group or a call blast. Their support is fantastic. They're able to help you with it as well. And what you would do is you would register with them, you would forward your landline number to the new virtual telephone number, and then you would set up Flextel with a list of all your mobile numbers or people's landline numbers. And when someone calls your landline that's in the office, the call will go to the Flextel virtual number, and then it will either ring sequentially through all of those numbers until somebody picks up, or it'll do a call blast and they'll all ring at the same time, and the first person to answer takes the phone call. It's quite a cool bit of kit. I've used it a few times. I've used it with a couple of clients, and it's quite a good bit of kit to be looking at and experimenting with now if you can. One thing to note, if you do it and you're pushing it out to people's mobile phones, you might need to ask them to either turn off their own voicemail or extend how long their phone rings for before voicemail kicks in. Otherwise, everyone's just going to hit one person's voicemail. So while we're stuck at home and we're doing this, like we were saying earlier, communication is key. Messaging and video calls are really important. So anyone with an Office 365 license, and I believe Microsoft have now extended it out for free to a lot of people as well. If you connect onto Office 365 and Google the word Teams, Teams is something that's replacing Skype. So Skype and Skype for Business that they still work, and Skype for Business can call Teams people, and Teams people can call Skype people, but the Skype for Business name will eventually disappear and everyone will be using Teams. Teams is included with your Office 365 subscription, and while we have this outbreak, they're giving it away for free as well. Teams will let you call people. It'll also let you share some files and stuff with people. You can do video calls as well. But unlike Zoom, you can only do 4 video calls and see those 4 calls at the same time. Zoom is something we've started using because of that. We're Office 365. We use Office 365 every day. Our whole business is cloud-based. Teams just wasn't quite where we needed it to be for the sort of calls that we were making. So we looked at Zoom, so zoom.us. We've got some guides on our YouTube channel on some of the best practices and things you can do with Zoom. You can set up a free account with Zoom. So some of you would have just logged onto this without an account by clicking the link today. But if you set up a free account, all your calls are free on there. You can have massive group video calls where you see each other. The only stipulation between the free and the paid version is the free version will let you have a group call for 40 minutes, and then you have to hang up and start the call again. If not, it's £12 a month. £12 a month for being able to do it, I think, is a fantastic price. You can't really beat it. Slack is something that we use a lot. Slack, we would like to move over to Teams, but Teams hasn't quite got the functionality to what Slack has. We use Slack in the office every day, and now we're out of the office, we're using it even more. Slack, again, you can use for free, but then there's a paid-for account on top. If it's free, have a go, see how you get on, register your guys on there, and see if you get on within the confines of the free version of it without having to pay for it. Slack lets you do private messages with each other, but you can also set up group chats, and you can set up something called channels. And channels, we have a channel for every project that we work on. We have different channels for account management, for our senior management team, and it's just a central hub for where we can communicate. Slack also lets you do online phone calls, so as long as you've got a microphone working, you can set up Slack on there as well. One thing I would recommend is try and refrain from using WhatsApp Messenger or Facebook Messenger. They're really for personal use, and trying to use them in a work capacity is quite hard to police it. So we spoke about earlier, again, remote files. OneDrive and SharePoint are Microsoft's offering. So OneDrive, people have OneDrive for free. You can sign up for a OneDrive account with a normal email address. But OneDrive for Business, if you've got an Office 365 account, gives you a terabyte of online storage, and that's your own personal storage. Think of it like your home drive, and that's where you can save some files. SharePoint is now OneDrive for Business, but as a company, it's a much larger scale, and it's what you would think of as your mapped drives. So that's somewhere where you can save files that everybody has access to, and it's collaborative learning. If you've got Office 365, have a look at OneDrive if it's on there. SharePoint is something your IT department would need to set up for you, and we've got a lot of companies now that are obviously seeing the importance of moving their files from their on-site server to a SharePoint server, or to OneDrive in the cloud, and using SharePoint there. The alternative to OneDrive and SharePoint, there are a couple other things out there. So there's Dropbox. Dropbox, again, they have free accounts, and then there's Dropbox for Business. And there is some other tools out there as well. So Google Drive. Google Drive has its own versions of Office. So there's Google Sheets for Excel. They've got their own versions of Word and Keynote as well. A lot of educational establishments use Google, and a lot of art houses, so design places, are using them. So realistically, yeah, technology-wise, it's a very condensed, brief overview of what we're doing and some recommendations out there. I've been looking at the chat. No one's fired any questions over. If anyone's got any questions, if they want to fire them now. As kind of my closing thoughts before I hand back over to Alistair, or if Chris wants to say some things, is obviously just reach out, make sure you're prepared. That, like I said, I think there's 25 IT telecoms members and IT support people in the chamber. Reach out to those if you need help. That they're there for you. That's the idea of the chamber. We're all in this together. Stay together, stay safe, work together. We've got some useful guides on our homepage. If you go to CETSAT.com, at the top of the page is a COVID-19 link, which will take you through to some of the things we've been doing. I'm personally sharing some guides on my own LinkedIn for businesses, and I'm sharing things, and I'm helping some family and friends and other people out there by doing some bits and pieces on Facebook in my own time out of hours, because the needs there. There's people out there that need support. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm going to open up to the room now. I'm just going to unmute Alistair and bring him back in. if it will allow me. You there, Alistair?
I am, yeah. Lovely. Thank you, Scott. That was actually really, really useful. I think there's an awful lot of interesting tools out there that I certainly haven't come across. Things like the GROUNDWIRE and things are really interesting. Certainly, we've been utilising Office 365 as a team. And I think it's also really important that people understand that it's good to have a time when a team can come together. I know that you guys, as you mentioned, have a full business catch up every morning at 9:30. We do the same thing at 9. Gets everybody kind of set for the day, understanding what everybody else is up to. And kind of it allows us to hold each other to account as well, from a people management point of view, making sure that people are supported in what they're trying to achieve, and making sure that everybody's up to date. Obviously, from our point of view, the situation is developing so rapidly, and the various bits of information that are coming out so fast, and quite often with a need for clarification or pulling apart and putting back together in language that people understand. It's really useful for us, and certainly contact multiple times a day with people via video as well is really important.
It's really good for peace of mind. We're using it for business purposes, but yesterday morning, one of our senior engineers, it was his birthday at the weekend, a terrible time of year to have a birthday. So yesterday morning when we came on the call, we were all wearing silly hats and sang happy birthday to him, which he wasn't expecting. And it's just a bit of, just peace of mind and a bit of self well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I read something earlier, which was some advice that you should never go 2 hours without having a conversation with somebody. It's very easy to get quite isolated within what you're doing. And I know that we're having a conversation with Becky, who's obviously on this call from New Leaf as well, about putting together a mental health webinar as well, which will happen next week.
It's a great idea, yeah.
People that are working from home, because we've all been. I'm quite lucky. I've worked from home. I worked from home for 5 years when I ran my own business. But there's a lot of people that have kind of been thrown into this, and it's very new, and with everything else that's going on, people can feel very unsettled. But what you've done here, I'm just having a quick look through some of the comments on the group chat there. There's a lot of support there, and which is really useful, so thank you. Maria, I can see you were wanting a copy of the recording. Is that possible, Scott? Have you been recording this?
I've pressed record on it. It's not something I've done before, so I will see what it comes out like.
Okay.
But yeah, if it's fit for purpose, I will certainly share it out. I'm hoping to put it on our own YouTube channel. We've started a YouTube channel last week. We've never had one before, and we've been putting some self-help guides on there, starting with SSL VPN. I shared a lot of Zoom stuff on there yesterday, so some of the nitty-gritty bits of what you can do in Zoom as well. So what I will do is, obviously I've got everyone's email addresses. If that works, I'll email out the link instead of the whole video, because it saves space. One of the things I actually forgot to mention, I've just thought off the top of my head, so saying that, about sending files to each other. There is a free website called WeTransfer.com. WeTransfer.com is fantastic for sending files up to 2 GB in size for free. So if you're working on something large, you need to send it to someone else, as long as it's got nothing sensitive, because it does use public links that I suppose they could be guessed if someone really wanted to go data mining. You can upload files to WeTransfer.com, put in an email address, and off it goes. And they'll receive the files. The other thing you can do as well is there's an option on there, if you change it to not email address, just to generate a link. You can then send the link in Slack or whatever messaging apps that you're using to share large files with people. So that's a good one. I see Becky has asked about some training to do with Teams. It's something we're being asked quite a bit about. Again, Teams is not something we use a lot, so it's not something we know that well in anger. The question really would be to find out, what do you want to achieve first, and is Teams the right fit for you before you go down that path. Some people see Teams as the perfect unicorn of working online, but some of it's not quite as good as you'd like it to be, which is why even us as an IT company, we use other tools to be able to do it. But if you can identify what you're trying to achieve, certainly send some stuff over, and what do you want to achieve? Yeah, have a chat with Chris. Send some stuff over to our inquiries at CETSAT.com if it's something you're intrigued in. I see your message says you've been asked to deliver training via Microsoft Teams. So that's just using it as a video call. So the biggest thing there is, I would just say, download the Teams app and and do a call. Do a call with your partner in the same house first. Test it out and see how you get on. I'm quite happy to take a Teams call as well.
As would we be.
Yeah, that's all you're wanting to use there. Teams is such a big product because a lot of people see it for the collaborative stuff, the file sharing, but if you're just wanting to use it as Skype, yeah, just your video calls, yeah, definitely go for it. What else have we got in there? First time on Zoom. We've been teleconferencing all day. Zoom's so user friendly. Cool. Chris has obviously put his email address on there to ask out if anybody needs any help. They can get in contact.
Yep.
I think that kind of covers it. There's some nice, lovely comments on there. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Can I say, yeah, thank you on behalf of the Chamber as well, and obviously the people that are on this call. You know, we're in a fairly unique position, hopefully as a Chamber, where we can bring together experts and do this kind of thing for free to help support each other. And it's really great to have the support of CETSAT and of you, Scott, and Chris as well. Just whilst we're on the call, I can see John has asked something about the social aspects of remote working. As I mentioned, we are in the process of putting something together with Becky, and we'll put that out as soon as we've got that live, John. So do keep an eye on the website and our social media streams. We'll try and let everyone know. I think that's going to be a fairly popular one, because as I say, there's quite a lot of people that are kind of thrown into this. We've also got a managing staff from home one, John. I don't know if you'd seen that. Which is another workshop. I'm just going to follow the link myself and remind myself exactly when that was. We're doing a series of these, so that's actually tomorrow at 10:30, John, if that would be of help. And that's about managing teams remotely. And then we've got another one which is around cash flow. Again, you know, something that's very, very important for businesses at the moment. Few businesses that are struggling with this in the short term, and that's on Friday at 2:30. So, you know, hopefully there's some support there. We do want to keep these going. I think we're finding them very useful. Certainly I'm learning things as I'm sitting in on some of these as well, which is really good. And I'm sure that we'll continue to. So if you are seeing these, if you want to spread the word, you know, they are free. They are hopefully supporting the wider business community as well as our members. I think it's important for us to do that as a Chamber at the moment. But if anyone's got any questions at all, feel free to drop me a line. I will put my email address in the comments box here at all. You know, if anyone needs anything, let me know. And I think other than that, if anybody has any other questions, I think we're probably done as a webinar. But thank you again, Scott. It's been very helpful, and thanks to Chris as well and the rest of the CETSAT team.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you all. Take care.
Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.